English Politics Podcast.
English Politics Podcast.
English Politics Podcast. Welcome back, everyone, to the English Politics Podcast, where we uncover the stories, strategies, and decisions that shape the world of politics. I'm your host, Elizabeth Parker, and it's such a pleasure to have you here with us today. Each episode, we bring you insights into the movers and shakers of the political world, and today is no exception. Our topic is as compelling as ever: Trump's quiet power moves, the secret plans. Donald J. Trump, a name that echoes across the globe, has always been a figure of intrigue, debate, and relentless determination. While his presidency was filled with headline-grabbing moments, many of his most strategic decisions were made quietly, away from the public eye. Today, we'll delve into those lesser-known but impactful power moves that defined his leadership. Joining us for this conversation is none other than the man himself, the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Mr. Trump has agreed to sit down with us today to discuss his unique approach to leadership, his strategies for America, and what went on behind the scenes during his presidency. Mr. Trump, it's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's always great to be here, and I'm looking forward to talking about the real work we did, some of which people don't know about but had a tremendous impact. It's something I think your audience will find very interesting.
Absolutely, Mr. Trump. Before we dive into the specifics, let me start by asking a foundational question. From trade policies to diplomacy, it's evident that many of your actions were highly calculated. Do you think this quiet strategy, operating behind the scenes, helped you achieve what you envisioned for America?
Well, Elizabeth, I believe leadership is about results, not just optics. Sometimes you have to work quietly, strategically, to make the big changes people see later. You can't tip your hand in negotiations or allow critics to derail your plans before they even get off the ground. The truth is, much of the success we had during my presidency came from planning behind the scenes and focusing on what really mattered to the American people. We'll talk more about that today.
We can't wait to hear about it, Mr. Trump. Let's get started. Mr. Trump, one of your most notable yet less publicized power moves was your renegotiation of trade deals, particularly with China. Can you elaborate on the strategic planning behind those negotiations?
Certainly, Elizabeth. The trade deals were about putting America first. For too long, we had unfair trade practices that hurt American workers. Behind the scenes, my team and I conducted exhaustive research, studying every angle of China's economy and trade dependencies. We used tariffs as leverage, not because we wanted to hurt anyone but because we needed to bring them to the table. These weren't spur-of-the-moment decisions. They were carefully calculated moves. The goal was always to protect American jobs and ensure a fair playing field for our businesses, and we succeeded tremendously.
Your judicial appointments have had a long-lasting impact on America. Can you walk us through the quiet planning that went into reshaping the judiciary?
Absolutely. Judicial appointments were a top priority. We worked closely with groups like the Federalist Society to identify highly qualified judges who respected the Constitution. Each nominee was thoroughly vetted, and I personally reviewed their records to ensure they aligned with our vision for America. Behind the scenes, we navigated a highly political process in the Senate, making sure we had the votes for confirmation. These appointments weren't just about the present. They were about securing America's future and upholding the rule of law for generations.
Diplomacy with North Korea was one of the boldest moves of your presidency. What were the secret strategies behind those high-stakes negotiations?
Meeting with Kim Jong-un was a significant step, but it wasn't something we did without preparation. My team and I held extensive discussions, sometimes late into the night, to plan every detail. The strategy was to establish a direct line of communication and show strength while also offering a path to peace. Our approach was unconventional, but it opened doors that hadn't been opened in decades. We didn't just talk, we acted, and while the media focused on optics, the real work was done behind closed doors with clear objectives.
Many of your domestic policies, such as tax reform, were rolled out with minimal public debate beforehand. Why was it important to keep those plans under wraps?
The tax reforms were designed to boost the economy and support working Americans. By keeping the planning under wraps, we avoided unnecessary opposition from special interest groups and political opponents before the details were finalized. Quietly crafting the bill allowed us to focus on what mattered, making sure it worked. Once it was ready, we acted decisively, delivering one of the largest tax cuts in American history. Sometimes, achieving big results means you have to limit distractions and focus on getting it done.
Story: The Silent Chessboard, Trump's Quiet Political Strategies. Behind the glitz, controversies, and bold public announcements that defined Donald J. Trump's presidency, there existed a quieter narrative, a deliberate game of strategy that resembled a masterful chess match. Few knew the intricate planning, precision, and patience that went into these moves, but they were there, shaping America in ways that often became clear only long after the moves were made. The strategic silence. In early 2017, as President Trump settled into the Oval Office, his administration faced a whirlwind of scrutiny. The media fixated on his tweets, rallies, and spontaneous remarks, but behind closed doors, a very different Donald Trump emerged. He was methodical, directing his team to craft policies with far-reaching consequences while avoiding unnecessary media noise. One of his most significant but underplayed strategies was the economic battle with China. Trump had often declared the trade imbalance between the U.S. and China unacceptable, but his approach to addressing it wasn't loud declarations. It was quiet preparation. Weeks before announcing tariffs, Trump's team had amassed a treasure trove of data. Advisors scoured reports on Chinese industries, pinpointing weaknesses that could be leveraged. During one closed-door meeting, Trump listened intently as economists laid out scenarios for the tariffs' impact. "This isn't just about economics," he said. "It's about resetting the balance of power. If we don't act now, we'll regret it for generations." With that, the tariffs were born, not as a reactionary measure, but as the culmination of months of strategic groundwork. The North Korea gambit. Then there was the bold decision to meet with Kim Jong-un, the reclusive leader of North Korea. To the world, it seemed like an impromptu and risky maneuver, but insiders knew it was anything but spontaneous. In the months leading up to the meeting, Trump's diplomatic corps worked tirelessly to map out the contours of a potential dialogue. Intelligence teams provided detailed psychological profiles of Kim, while Trump's advisors prepared him for every possible scenario. "They think I'm unpredictable," Trump remarked before the historic summit. "Let's use that to our advantage." When Trump crossed into North Korean territory, it wasn't just a symbolic moment. It was the result of countless rehearsals, contingency plans, and quiet diplomacy. Though critics debated the outcomes, Trump's gamble was undeniably groundbreaking. Judicial appointments, quietly shaping the future. Perhaps one of Trump's most enduring legacies was his transformation of the federal judiciary. By the end of his term, he had appointed more than 200 judges, including 3 Supreme Court justices. But this wasn't merely about filling vacancies. It was about reshaping the judiciary for generations. Trump's judicial strategy began before his election. During his campaign, he worked closely with legal scholars and groups like the Federalist Society to compile a list of potential nominees who aligned with conservative principles. When he entered office, the list was ready, and his team moved swiftly to ensure that every nomination was meticulously vetted and advanced through the Senate. This quiet but relentless approach to judicial appointments was rarely front-page news, yet it fundamentally shifted the balance of power in the courts. "Judges are the guardians of America's Constitution," Trump often said. "If we get this right, we protect America's future." The art of the silent deal. While much of Trump's presidency focused on high-profile initiatives, some of his most significant victories were won in relative silence. One example was his renegotiation of the USMCA, which replaced NAFTA. The deal was a masterclass in strategic patience. Trump's team engaged in countless rounds of negotiations with Canada and Mexico, often keeping the details under wraps until the agreement was nearly finalized. By maintaining secrecy, Trump avoided external interference and ensured that the final deal delivered for American workers. During a briefing in the Oval Office, Trump reviewed the agreement's key provisions. "This is what winning looks like," he said. "We didn't shout about it, we just got it done." Legacy of quiet moves. Trump's presidency was often perceived as loud and chaotic, but beneath the surface, a different picture emerges. His quiet strategies were like the moves of a chess master, calculated, deliberate, and designed to outmaneuver opponents. Whether it was economic policy, diplomacy, or judicial appointments, Trump understood that some of the most powerful moves are made in silence. As history continues to evaluate his presidency, these quiet power moves stand as a testament to his unique approach to leadership. They remind us that sometimes the most profound changes happen not in the spotlight, but in the quiet corridors of power.
Thank you, Mr. Trump, for sharing these incredible insights into your presidency and strategies. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. To our listeners, we hope you enjoyed today's deep dive into the untold stories and quiet power moves that defined one of the most remarkable presidencies in modern history. If you found today's discussion valuable, please consider supporting our channel. Like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends and family. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of the English Politics Podcast. Together, we can continue to explore the fascinating world of politics and uncover the truth behind the headlines. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.